The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Welcome back to another great episode of our Best Practices webinar series with 7Signal. I see a few of you have joined early today, so if you'd like to, please let us know where you're tuning in from today. If you are in the office, if you're working from home, I see we have Kenneth joining us from Denmark. Welcome back, Kenneth. I see we have Joe joining us from London. Thank you, Joe, working from home today. Let's see who else we have here. We have Laurent working from home in Paris. Thanks so much for joining us. And we have Chris joining us from Pittsburgh. And we have Germund joining us again from Norway. Welcome back. Well, thank you to all of you for letting us know where you're joining us from. If you'd like to, keep dropping that in the chat there, and we'll circle back. I'm actually in the Cleveland office today, and we are joined by, yet again, Jim Vada from Cincinnati. How are you today, Jim?
Good, Kelsey. Good to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. And our very special guest today, we are joined by Keith Parsons. Keith, where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Elk Ridge, Utah, up in the mountains with a little bit of snow.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will go ahead and get started here. So we are 7Signal, the leader in wireless experience monitoring, and we'll go a little bit more into depth later in the webinar as to what that entails and what our mission is as 7Signal. So as I said, we are joined today by Jim Vada and Keith Parsons for a very interesting topic, why you need to understand non-Wi-Fi protocols. So thank you all for joining us. Again, my name is Kelsey Rizzuto. I am the marketing specialist here at 7Signal. Really excited to dive into this topic here today and move forward here. So a few announcements before we begin and dive into the presentation. If you've joined us recently, these will all sound familiar, but we do partner with CWNP for every single one of our webinars. So if you're pursuing a certification by watching these Wednesday webinars, you are eligible for CE credits. So if you're interested in a certificate, just drop us a message and we can email that to you per request. Moving forward, we also host a product tour every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern at go.7signal.com/tour. And we'll go ahead and drop that link to register in the chat here if you care to join us this week. But we don't necessarily get into any kind of demo or too into depth with product here in these Wednesday webinars. But I will read off a few exciting updates here just to give you some inside scoop. We have some exciting updates in regard to our release of Mobilei for iGel Linux and extended Linux OS coverage. And we recently announced the release of a portable Sapphire Eye sensor, in addition to several other exciting product updates. So if you haven't joined us for a product tour recently, go ahead and register so you can stay in the know with everything 7Signal. We also post all of our archived webinars to our YouTube channel. So today's broadcast presentation will be there available this afternoon. So you can go ahead and rewatch some of our past webinars and today's presentation as well. We also post all of our slides to our Twitter account after today's broadcast. So go ahead and give us a follow at 7Signal, and we'll post those slides later today as well. But if you're not active on Twitter, you don't have a Twitter account, that's no problem. If you're still interested in receiving those slides, you can send us a message here in the chat, or you'll receive a follow-up email with access to those slides additionally. Another great reason to follow us on Twitter is we're very active on there, but we also give away a lot of 7Signal merchandise to those who follow us and to those who engage with our trivia questions each week. So I'm going to go ahead and read last week's lucky winners. We had Rich Gilbert and Bill Lawrence. So congratulations to you two. You should receive some 7Signal swag soon. And to the rest of you on the line today, go ahead and give us a follow if you are on Twitter. And if not, go ahead and stay tuned for today's trivia questions that Keith so graciously provided us. So stay tuned for that later on. Just a sneak peek here of some ROI data from recent IDC research that we're really excited about here. We will be releasing the white paper for this in a few weeks coming ahead, so just stay tuned for some more information on this. Moving forward, another announcement here. Again, this will sound familiar to those of you who have recently joined us, but we're really excited, really proud of this. We've recently been featured in the Gartner 2020 Market Guide for Digital Experience Monitoring. We've been recognized as a representative vendor for Mobilei. So we will go ahead, again, drop the link in the chat here to access this report if you're interested in learning more. All right, on with the show here. So a little history and background on 7Signal. We were established in 2007 in Helsinki, Finland, and we've hit a lot of major milestones along the way that we're really proud of. We're really proud of the 1 billion data points that we're analyzing daily, in addition to the 5 million devices that we're monitoring daily as well. We have over 200 customers, over 30 partners, and 14 patents, which means that the technology you see from 7Signal, you're only going to see from 7Signal. Additionally, we are certified in over 40 countries, and we're GDPR compliant, which essentially means that we take data and privacy very, very seriously for all of our users across the world. As I said, we are 7Signal, the leader in wireless experience monitoring, and we're here because the digital experience matters, and it's largely affected and influenced by connectivity. So what we're able to do is provide full visibility into the end user experience through an outside-in approach through our suite of Mobilei and SapphireEye. Additionally, we are completely AP and device agnostic, which means that those great tools and technologies you already have installed, we're incredibly complementary with as well. So as I said, the digital experience matters, and when it's negatively impacted, it's usually due to one of these top 7 Wi-Fi problems here on the left, such as congestion, coverage loss, co-channel and radio interference, roaming issues, and more. And how we're able to detect those top 7 Wi-Fi problems is by running active and passive tests on the edge of the network, looking for things like throughput, packet loss, latency and jitter, adapter and driver issues, and more. So to give you a bit more perspective as to what makes us so different, if you look at your typical enterprise LAN infrastructure on the right here, you've got those great tools and technologies giving you very useful data already installed on the network, such as your Riverbed, Cisco, Aruba, Appneta, and several others. But where we come in is we pick up where they leave off, giving you full visibility into the user experience through Mobilei. Mobilei can ultimately be installed on any mobile device, from your laptops, your mobile phones, your Zebra scanners, your workstation on wheels, and more. And additionally, we do have SapphireEye, which is the software-enabled hardware sensors looking down on the network, giving you that service level quality and RF visibility. So through that combination, you're able to get that full holistic perspective as to what's occurring in your wireless network environment. But what we're also able to do is give you that external network visibility as well. That enterprise LAN infrastructure that you had in the office might not be as useful now with a lot of us on the line here working from home. So with Mobilei, we can give you that visibility into the user experience through those external networks, those home networks. Whether you're working in an apartment building, a condo, your home, we can give you that full perspective as to what's occurring there as well, so you know what's going on in that network environment additionally. As I've said many, many times here, work from home is here to stay, and moving forward, that seems to be the future for us as well. So having that perspective into your home environments is incredibly important as well. It's not just nice to have a Wi-Fi connection at home during work hours. It's mission critical, and it's important to stay productive and connected to your work during this time. All right, on with the show here. As I mentioned before, we do trivia for every single one of our webinars, and by participating in this, you can win some swag. So I'm going to go ahead and launch our first question here today that Keith provided us. All right, are you guys able to see this first question here?
Yep.
All right, which radio frequencies have better propagation characteristics? And I see a lot of you dropping in your answers here. I'll give you a few more seconds. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. All right, Keith, how did we do today?
Fantastic. Well done.
Awesome.
I made the question too easy.
All right, congrats to all of you who answered correctly. So we are going to go ahead and launch the second poll here that Keith also provided. All right, so the second question here, which IEEE protocol has spanned more sub-protocols for wireless communications? Let's see if this question is a little bit more difficult for people.
This one is a little harder.
All right, I see a lot of you still dropping your answers in here. And I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. All right, how did we do on this second question here?
Well, this is kind of one of those confusing questions. If you count A, B, G, N, AC, AD, 802.11 looks bigger, but if you also look at 802.15.4, as we're going to see in this presentation, it's also spawned a whole family of other protocols we need to know about. So I had anticipated this kind of a first answer. Maybe if we ask it at the end, we'll get a different answer.
There we go. All right, thank you to all of you who participated. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and give our controls over to our guest, Keith Parsons. And while Keith is getting set up here, if Jim wants to give him a little introduction to the rest of the presentation here.
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, so Keith Parsons is the owner and managing director of Wireless LAN Professionals. He puts on the WLPC conferences every year, and he is CWNE number 3, I think. You can follow him on Twitter at Keith R. Parsons, and check him out.
All right, we're good to go. So today's topic is on why you need to understand non-Wi-Fi protocols. First, I'm making the assumption you're already spending a lot of time and effort trying to learn how the 802.11 protocol works so you can be a better designer, manager, troubleshooter of Wi-Fi. But this topic is in addition to that. There's some other protocols we might need to think about and know about. So first up, see if I can get my mouse over the right place. Just a slide about me. I like to collect certifications, so I still have some more to go to hit my goal of 100. But contact me at these locations. Up is we're going to talk about the CWMP program. Now, CWMP program started about 20 years ago, originally called Planet 3 Wireless, and they developed the first CWNA program, and then have a whole suite of classes, courses, certifications on 802.11 from the CW. Actually, the first one was plus plus. They wanted to be better than just wireless plus. They had wireless plus plus. They did CWS, CWT, CWNA, all the way up through CWNE at the top of the line. Well, a couple of years ago, Tom Carpenter and the CWMP board got together and said, you know, there's more than 802.11 Wi-Fi in wireless. Now, we all know there's a lot more in wireless. There's the whole cellular area of wireless. And they didn't go that path. They could have talked about WiMAX. WiMAX did his little flash in the pan for a little bit. But instead, they said there's a whole lot of protocols, and what's up and coming is IoT. So the CWMP program built a new set of certifications, and so far we've got 3. There will be more coming. And in these certifications, let's look at the non-Wi-Fi protocols and see if we can put some courses around it. So the CWISA is about 1 inch deep and a mile or 2 wide. It covers everything from IoT, BLE, cellular, machine to machine, all sorts of different kinds of protocols. And it's kind of an overview. What are all the possible things we should be looking at? A little bit of RF is involved in there as well, but a broad base to say, what can we look at here in this area? And it's comparable to the CWNA in the Wi-Fi side. Broad range, lots of information. Now, it's broader than the CWNA. CWNA only has 802.11 protocol to look at. But that's the first place to start. Stepping up a level, they have the CWICP. And this one is more about the PHY. You can think of it kind of like the, let's call it the CWAP, but for the IoT. How do the different protocols work? Down to the protocol level. And there's one main protocol, 802.15.4, and then a whole lot of others that branched off, and we're going to look at a little detail in a minute. Lots of those. This course, I just took it a couple weeks ago, and it's very in-depth about how those protocols actually work. Another new one that just was launched at the end of September, the CWIIP, is more about the programming interfaces, Python, to integrate the IoT data coming back over to a database to do something with it. It does touch on Python. Yeah, you're going to have to learn a little bit about Python scripting and implementations and how do you monitor these. This is more about the programming interface between the IoT devices and the rest of your network. Soon coming, we'll see as they probably, if they're following along like the CWMP normally does, in January we'll have some more sessions where you have people get together in Vegas and they work out what needs to be in the next one. And the next one up is probably going to be the design one, if it's matching the same as the other CWMP programs. So CWMP is kind of leading the way here, asking us, helping us to get to a point where other non-Wi-Fi protocols. So what Wi-Fi protocols are there and where are they? Well, if the left side here, sub 1 gig, and this is 700, 800, 900 megahertz. There's a wide variety, 413. There's a lot of different sub 1 gigahertz frequencies that we can use. Some of these protocols can change the frequencies, the spectrum that they use in their protocol. So that's one group that's down there. So cellular is down sub 1 gig. 2.4, we're all used to 2.4. As you'll see in a minute, when we get a little deeper into 2.4, there's a lot of other 2.4 things we can learn about. 3.5 is where we have CBRS in the US. Depending on what geography you live in, you may or may not have a 3.5 that's available to you to access. We're all very familiar with gig. In the US, the FCC's just, we're like right on the cusp of the vote of having some new Uni 4 channels added to our 5 gig. Now, we're not going to get a contiguous chunk from the bottom end of 5 gig, Uni 3. There's a chunk that's not going to happen, and then there's also a little teeny sliver between 5.9 and 6 that's kind of locked down. But it's still, we're going to get a lot of new features in 5 gig, let alone the next one up is all the 6 gig. And we have huge amounts of spectrum, 1,200 megahertz of spectrum in 6 gig. But we can also talk about the 60 gig that's coming as well. Some 60 gig devices that we can install, and I've been installing some lately. They work really good. So we have on the left side of the screen, you see the different frequencies. In the middle, I added the logos of the different types of protocols that exist. Now, you probably know the Wi-Fi Alliance logo. You've used Wi-Fi for a long time. There's an old-fashioned one. We've kind of changed. The old-fashioned one was A, B, G, N, AC on the right side. By the time we got around to AX, they changed the whole logo scheme, and they went to this Wi-Fi 4, Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 6, and 6E. Also part of the Wi-Fi Alliance is WiGig, and that's some of the 60 gig, either 802.11 AD or AY. To the left of there, we have Bluetooth and Bluetooth low energy. We'll talk a little bit about those, and you need to know how they work because they're going to interact with every day, really. And then the CBRS Alliance, which deals with the on-go, the CBRS type of private key. Just yesterday, Aruba announced with Soluna that they're having a partnership so that Aruba will be able to sell direct to consumers, direct to resellers, a a solution that's full CBRS, full SIM capability, the complex back end that's required for LTE will just be in a little appliance, and so there's things coming that way. Now, the big one, that is why I had that first trivia question. On the right side, you see 802.15.4. That's a generic 802.11 protocol. But what's come out of that protocol, and the reason it's so popular, is it's the baseline, the ground rules for how this other protocol works. And then Zigbee, V-Wave, Thread, Wireless HART, SIGFOX, ISA 100, LORAN, they're all riding on top of that other protocol. So that question was also not about 802.11 ABG. Those are just subsets of 802.11. The reason I use the word spawned is the 15.4 has spawned a lot of other devices that are actually competitors to each other that use the same basis. So let's get in and look a little deeper at these. So for the CWICP course, and this is just, I know it's really small, so maybe zoom in a little bit, but this is just a couple columns to compare between the different protocols. And that for the CWICP course, I was building out a spreadsheet so I could look at this. I know CWMP exam writers love taking questions off of charts. They think that's like the coolest way possible. Personally, I think it's way down at the bottom of Bloom's taxonomy. And as a professional course, you should be asking a little more complex questions. But we know the CWMP likes asking those type of questions. So I built this little table, and it's not little. It is a table, and it's huge. This only has about 6 columns. My actual table that I'm carrying the data has 24 columns wide. So for each of the different types, there's 802.11.15 generic, LORAN, SIGFOX, and we can see which frequencies they use, what's the range, data rate, what's the modulation scheme, what's the encryption type, how far do they go, what's the transmit power. There's a lot of different things about each of these different protocols. It shouldn't be something you just memorize. So I just showed you a sample of this table. You don't need to have the whole or understand it. Just, I'm bringing this up to let you know there's a lot of differences. Even though the 802.15 based protocols seem to be based on the same overall protocol, how they are delivered and what they're good at, and their pricing as well, changes widely depending on which of these you look at. So moving forward, especially in the IoT, there's a bunch of different protocols you're going to need to understand. If you're going to install a wireless HART solution, you need to understand its benefits, its feature sets, why it's good, why it's bad, why you'd install it in certain situations and not others. So toward that end, CWICP course, good place to start to get into those, the nitty-gritty of what each of those are. Now, again, sorry for the small picture, but the concept is more important. As we look at those different protocols, and they're writing on different frequencies. I prepared here a little free space graph. It's just done in Excel. The formula is on the screen in the bottom right side. You can make your own in Excel however you like. And you just put in the frequency and then the distance, and it just charts them right out. But what I was trying to show is there is a big difference between the free space loss on different frequencies. 900 megahertz, that was the first trivia question, has better propagation because it travels further with less loss. The bottom line in this curve is 60 gigahertz. It doesn't travel very far. It has a huge amount of loss. Well, how can we even possibly use that? Well, the difference is also in the size, the physical size of the radio waves. 900 megahertz wave, big. 2.5 gig. By the time we get down to 60 gig, they're super, super small. Like the 5G millimeter wave, they're in millimeters, very, very small. So when you look at the 60 gig free space loss, you're like, anything possibly work there? But the positive side is, at 60 gigahertz, we have very small radio waves, which means our antennas can be extremely small. So I could build an array of antennas that maybe 20 antennas by 20 antennas. That's 400 little antennas in a box this big. Now I can get a 30, 35 dB gain on a little teeny antenna this large to offset this loss in 60 gigahertz. So yes, there's a difference between the frequencies in free space loss. The formula is there for you to look at, but realize they also allow us to change our antennas. Now there's another downside to the free space loss on the 900 megahertz. It goes too far. Remember, in Wi-Fi, our protocol for 802.11 is listen before talk. We're going to send out a signal, and anyone who hears it has to shut up and wait until I'm done. That's the way the 802.11 protocol works. So if I cover too far of an area, I'm making too many people shut up. And the reverse. When I go to transmit, I have to listen and make sure no one within the range that I can hear is talking at the same time. So if I have a larger range, 802.11 isn't the best protocol for that. So there are different protocols that are designed to work better with these different frequencies. Here's an example. It's been around for a while, but I like the graphic. It allows us to talk to a lot of different issues. So if you look at the outside edge, the 802.11 AF, and inside that is AH. AH is the halo. And then as you get closer and closer to the home, you have different protocols. The protocols AH and AF allow us to have a protocol that works the same way as Wi-Fi. It doesn't do the same listen before talk. So just because we have a big, broader area doesn't mean we are going to have those downloads that come with Wi-Fi. Get closer, we want that to work. I'm sure in your own house, especially if you live in an apartment. I don't live in an apartment. I live kind of far out in the boon, but I do have neighbors. And when I go to look on my client device, I can see 6, 7, 8 access points available to me. And I'm not even in a dense location. If you're in a dense location, that might be 20, 40, 50. Wi-Fi doesn't work that well when it has that density because of the way the protocol works. So we have other protocols that work better when we don't have the same issues. So pick the protocols that fit the needs of what we're after. Now let's get in and look at 2.4 itself. We've been using 2.4 for 2 decades or more now. Originally 2.4 in the ham radio space, it's still available for ham radios, but the FCC used to call this the junk band. All sorts of garbage in here, microwave ovens, other stuff, but we figured out how to use it and make it actually work for us. On the top is the 2.4 spectrum for 802.11, and you can see that we have channels 1 through 13, but if you want to have non-overlapping channels, we have 1, 6, and 11. And we've heard that for a long time. I just made a graphic that matches. You can also look and see the wavelength on this chart. What's the physical size, and does it change? How much does the physical size change as you go a little bigger? But then I added to it the 802.15.4, the Zigbee. And you can see here these have different size. They're not as wide as we use for Wi-Fi. They're smaller. They're spaced differently. They're 2 megahertz wide, and they're spaced every 5, so I have a 5 gap between them. And you can see that they're actually labeled exactly what the frequencies are. So you can see Zigbee uses a different set than we use for Wi-Fi. Below that is BLE. BLE is using a 1 megahertz channel, but they're spaced 2 megahertz apart, so there's a little 1 megahertz gap in between. And then lifted there's 3 of those that are a little higher than the others. Those 3 are channels that we're broadcasting on. And you might see if you ever fire up a spectrum analyzer, these guys are hot almost everywhere I've ever been because BLE keeps blasting away on those individual items. And then the bottom line is all 78 of the individual 1 megahertz wide Bluetooth frequency hopping. So we're using the same spectrum, whether it be 802.11 or Zigbee or Z-Wave or Thread or BLE or Bluetooth. We're all in the same space, but we're doing it slightly differently. There's some extra issues why you might want to look into Bluetooth 4.0, Bluetooth 5.0, how they actually listen to the frequencies to find out where Wi-Fi is, and they go where Wi-Fi is not. So there's some intelligence built into that. So that's just 2.4. Bluetooth, BLE, 15.4, and 8.11, all sharing the same space. 3.5, moving up a little bit. You notice I skipped 900. Actually, the sub 1 gig, I didn't put a chart up there because there's so many different ones to put in there. 700, 800, 900, 400, yeah. So the sub 1 gig, mostly dominated by the cellular area. The pieces for IoT that are down there have their own spectrums. I've got a couple graphics, but they were for everything, and it was even more complex than the 2.4. Now, up to the 3.5. 3.5 is where we have 3.5 is where we have CBR in the US. It is a private LTE, meaning, first of all, it's LTE. Total different protocol than we're used to using in Wi-Fi. The way the cell tower controls the client devices, the way the client devices have to have a SIM to define who the client is and how it interacts, and the client in LTE answer and do what the cell tower tells them to do. But with CBRS, we now have some frequencies that, if you like CBRS, there's a lot of other possible training for CBRS. Strongly recommend you go and look into that. But CBRS, there's different categories of users. The tier 1 are the incumbents. There's very, but they have absolute control. If they have a frequency, they own it. That was tier 1. Tier 2 are people who use PAL licenses, priority access licenses. These went on auction just a couple months ago and have been distributed. They brought in obviously billions of dollars, but they can only use an amount of frequency, leaving half, or depending on where you are, more than half in the general access, the GAA category. So as a user, I could put up basically a small baby cell tower in my building, give SIMs to my customers, my clients' devices, and have an LTE that I own totally. It's using a frequency that I own, I use, and else can play with it. So there's some great situations. A private LTE, a CBRS, is going to solve lots of situations. I love it. It's not everything though, and it's not what a lot of people were thinking. I can take my iPhone and I can go into the CBRS zone and I can make my AT&T call via that way. That's not what they have ready today. That's neutral hosting, and as of right now, I don't know of any CBRS vendor who has the neutral host solution ready. But for people who want a private solution where I have my own client devices, I have my own network, and I have some controlled frequency that I can guarantee delivery, fantastic solution. Or for large venues, I'm not going to use CBRS to the public. I'm not going to replace the cell towers or the DAS in my TV. What it will do and can do is allow me to have all my internal work, my back of house, my others who are doing selling things, etc. in the venue, all use the private LTE, which frees up more Wi-Fi for the end users to use. So bunch here in 3.5. It's another protocol, entirely different than Wi-Fi, entirely different than .15.4. And if you want to get in that space, CBRS, place to go. One of the nice things about all the CBRS vendors that I've looked into is they are taking all of the very complex head-end parts and putting them down into a single U and having it all captured in one device. Makes it a lot easier. 5 gig. We love our 5 gig. You can see here the green and blue are Uni 1 and Uni 2. The Uni 2B is in gray, and we're not going to get this. We had thought we could get this contiguous chunk, and this is a beautiful chunk of space right in the middle of what we need. But FCC has fought this battle multiple times and lost, and they just left it alone. The people, the incumbents that have it, don't want to share it, which is totally fine. But if you look over on the right side, the right of Uni 3, we've had 165 just kind of dangling out there all by itself for a long time because the Uni 4 was locked down. And Chairman Pai and the team at FCC has been pushing really hard to free up the space. So the last column of the red, we're going to add 3 more 20 megahertz, which adds 2 more 40s, it adds 1 more 80, and it also adds 1 more 160 by cleaning up that extra little space. To the right of this, there's a little sliver that's not going away, and then we jump onto the 6 gig. So 5 gig space, this is all 802.11. It isn't required to run 802.11. There can be, and there are, privatized protocols that run in the same space. Lots of vendors, a lot of WISP vendors sell their devices. Some are 802.11 chip based, and then they tweak them. Others are TDD or FDD. They're protocols that ride in the same space, still totally legal, but it's still unlicensed. And then we jump into the big 6 gig. And I'm sure on your screen this just looks like too small. I'll put links in the end, or you can go pick these up in PDF and look at them closer if you like. This is 1,200 megahertz of space. Now, we don't have, I don't have yet, any hardware that does this, but it's coming. And this is the future of 802.11. It will be 802.11ax only. It's not going to have to be backward compatible. And we've had other discussions. I'm sure you've seen lots of other webinars on that. But here's our last one here is 60 gigahertz. These channels are used for 802.11ad and AY. Lots of vendors have solutions here. There's vendors who point-to-points. I did a survey of all of downtown, Fernay and I did, all of downtown today, that they had put 802.11ad on every single intersection where the two streets meet. In the center was an AD, and they built a mesh of the entire space using this AD. And you'd think, wait, it's really crowded, busy, all that. How do they make it go that far? Well, when you make basically 6 inches square, and yet it has a 30 plus dB antenna, you can aim those quite nicely. Only 6 channels. In the US, we're the only place that can use all 6, but I listed here some of the other countries and which of those channels you can use. There's a lot going on here in 60 gig. If you haven't got to it yet, they have point-to-points that are probably the easiest to play with, meshes. There's even a new company that is using feature, same little teeny antennas, to replace in-building. We've designed, a lot of our still have Cat 3, maybe Cat 5 only copper, Cat 5e maybe, but when we're starting to push full gig over long distances, we might be required to pull new copper in a building. Well, pulling copper is sensitive. So there's a company that uses the same 60 gig to replace copper poles in a building. And they've got both a mesh and a point-to-point where you put your APs connected to one of these that gives you your own set of copper, set of fiber. It's just another solution using radio waves, using the things we're good at, antennas, frequency, protocols, to solve another problem. If you want information, obviously go to the CWMP site. CWMP has CWA, ICP, IIP. You can go to the CBRS Alliance. There's a lot of information there. I would recommend, if you're into CBRS, there's some training where you can become a certified CBRS installer, and then you can install, because no one can install CBRS without this license. So go get trained in that. Obviously, 15.4, it is a 802.11 protocol, but tons of support on it. I put a couple of primers in there. If you have other information you want to come and share, WLAN Pro's site, we try to put a lot of stuff up there for free to share your information. So that's my prezzo. Questions for the day.
Thanks, Keith. Nice job. I just wanted to throw in a few things. One thing about CBRS is, like, all the training is really focused on spectrum sharing and interacting with the SAS system and all the rules and things like that. Not a lot of it is about the LTE protocol itself. So a resource I've used to learn about it is this book, 4G LTE Advanced Pro and the Road to 5G. It's really kind of a higher level book. Let's see if the camera will focus. There we go. Which is kind of a, if you're familiar with Wi-Fi, there's a lot of concepts that you can pick up pretty quickly from there without getting too bogged down into the, the guts of the protocol that might be a bit too much.
But there are things I like about. I mean, I agree with you, and I think I actually have that book as well. It is this new. There's a lot of very dense information in that book, especially if you don't have a background in LTE. But what I like about CBRS, and probably why I like the non-LTE training, is most CBRS vendors take all the LTE part out, and they don't have to know all those fancy things and all the interactions between each of the diagrams. You just basically put up an access, and as long as the client SIM can talk back to their head end, everything's good. So yes, there's a lot you can learn in LTE. I think the 15.4 might feel a little more comfortable for what most of our listeners are used to, because it's kind of the same things we do. It's in the 2.4. Okay, yeah, they have different size channels and they hop differently, but it's a protocol that I think's more accessible if you're a Wi-Fi guy. LTE, that's some pretty harsh stuff there, especially as the part of that book that goes into 5G and just.
Yeah, and the cellular books kind of assume you're doing cellular in a massive carrier network, right? Not private cellular where you need simplicity. So there's.
Yeah, and a lot of people are thinking about this private cellular as it's private, like a DAS was. A lot of my customers used to put a DAS in their hospital or their to give cell coverage to their customers inside the building if the local cell tower didn't do it. There was a time where AT&T or Verizon would actually pay you to put it in your building, and to a part where it was even, and now you have to pay them. And so the whole DAS solution of getting anyone's iPhone to connect up to a cell carrier and you own the little piece in between, that's kind of not that popular any longer. And so some people think of CBRS as a stopgap to take that place. But as of today, not where private LTE is going. Private LTE is going more, I have a need to communicate from my server to my clients, and I want to have guaranteed delivery. In Wi-Fi, we're sharing the frequency with everyone else who's using those frequencies. Going to a private LTE, I can control that traffic. I can give it priority over everything else. So if I'm a hotel and I want all my maids to have I can call them at any time and always get them. One of the nice things about CBRS is its noise floor can go down to, I don't know, 105, 110 and still be very decent coverage. And I need far fewer APs, eNode Bs, than I do actual APs. So there's a lot of benefits to a private LTE. One of them just isn't my end users can use their phone and call on AT&T on my equipment. That's just not there today.
Yeah. So a couple questions from the audience. I want to invite anybody that has a question to drop it in the Q&A panel. William says, for interfering 802.15.4 Zigbee transmitters, what 2.4 gigahertz channel can it be set to so it doesn't interfere with Wi-Fi channels 1, 6, or 11?
So this guy right here drops right in that gap. This one drops into that gap, and these two on the top. So going to make me put my glasses on, sorry. 15, 20, 25, and 26. That's why I made the chart, because I hate memorizing things. I just want to look someplace.
And it looks like 26 is the furthest away, so if you want a nice little guard band.
Yeah, if you're going to lock it on a single one, but like all protocols, the more spectrum you give it, the better it acts.
Yep. Here's a question from William. Would you consider Xbox game consoles which use 5 gigahertz channels in a frequency hopping manner to be non-Wi-Fi? I would consider that to be non-Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Because that's just one of those protocols for 5 gig that can ride on, they don't even have to use these channels. They can use entirely different channel plans. This is just the Wi-Fi version. As long as they follow the rules inside each of the uni categories, they can use a frequency for whatever they like. WISPs have been doing it for decades.
Yep. Maybe one more question here, Kelsey, then we'll wrap it up. Andrea says, what wireless protocol would you recommend for backhauling traffic to outdoor APs to cover a city block?
That's this one. There's perfect solutions now. Gigahertz, there's not a lot of frequency, but if you're in there first, then you can grab it. And the beauty of 60, because the waves are so small and you have really small antennas, you can get them to really, really tight, like pencil thin, maybe 2 or 3 degrees, and have a lot less interference. And you can go pop, pop, pop and connect up with. And so one of the things I've said for decades now is I like fiber and then copper and then a wireless point-to-point and then finally mesh. It's like the last thing, don't mesh, because of there's a lot of really nasty overhead that comes from it. So if I could replace a mesh backhaul with a point-to-point backhaul, I'm all over it. So 60 gig point-to-point doesn't mess up 5 gig, doesn't mess up 4. I think when we get 6 gig devices, we might see a new market segment of 6 gig backhaul. Because we have so many channels to choose from, you can pick a couple to dedicate to backhaul without messing with your client side. But today, you can go out and buy AD, AY. Most of these today, if you get a bridge linked in this 60 gigahertz, will have a 5 gig backup, a redundancy, because some of the issues with 60 gigahertz, they do have rain fade. They're a little more susceptible because the waves are smaller, especially if it's a really foggy day, you might get more loss. So if there's a situation where the 60 gig fails, they'll auto fail over to 5 gig. It's not great because now I'm sharing the 5 gig with other devices, but at least it didn't drop the whole segment, whatever that I was looking for. So I like 60 gig as solutions today.
Cool.
And depending on
Great.
distance, there's free space that fit in that space. There's a lot of other solutions that you can do there. There are, if you're looking, and I didn't cover the little pictures here, but there's some 30 solutions, 14 gig solutions. There's some lightly licensed frequencies where you can get point-to-points in. So I would much rather do a point-to-point any place I need to have backhaul than any kind of mesh that's available. How about you, Jim?
Yeah, I think 60 gigahertz is the most promising. You just, it's extremely high throughput, which is great for a backhaul, for backhaul connectivity. You just have to account for the rain fade that can really wipe it out, especially at long distance. So make sure you have, a backup plan for that.
And if you're using 60 gig for long, that's not what it's good for. Yes, I can overcome its free space loss with a really nice tight antenna, but that's just dB, it's just math. At some point, the distance is going to kick back in. There are other solutions for further distance without the rain fade.
Yep. All right, Kelsey, I think that wraps it up.
All right, thanks, Jim, for assisting with some of those questions. And thank you to Keith for another great presentation with us and diving into these protocols. And thank you to everyone on the lines today for giving us 45 minutes out of your workday to really dive into this presentation. So we hope to see everyone next week and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Jim.
Keith.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, you want to stay on for a minute, Jim?